to Chartloop State Intelligence Training Series. Joining me today is Craig Rajpal, Enterprise Sales Director at Workato. Welcome, Craig.
Hi, Sean. How you doing today?
Fantastic. Great to have you on. Very excited to talk with you about our topic today of de-risking deals. Now, you've been part of some very fast-growing, I'd say companies, not anymore startups, and led the whole enterprise side of the house. At both Workato, Carta, and a couple other startups. And we're talking about this. This is not something that starts at the beginning. When you're trying to get a lead or trying to open up an account, but rather when you already have a conversation, right? You get an inbound lead, and then things are going great. 2-3 months, moving down the line. You're having a few conversations, speaking with some of their managers, but then somebody throws a spade, like, oh, actually, this is not going to happen. So this session is to actually help sales reps like us de-risk things. So how do you approach things, in the very early stages of getting a lead to actually de-risk your deal?
No, absolutely. I think that's a very jam-packed question, and excited to dive in. So, I mean, as you talked about it, right? That depending upon what kind of sales you're into. I mean, if you're doing some transactional stuff, if you're more of a mid-funnel type where the velocity is core, but it's still extremely strategic in nature, or on the flip side, you're only focused on the 14 to 18-month kind of cycles with
Sure.
numerous stakeholders and potentially multiple line of businesses as well to get a deal done. So I think let's hypothetically assume a scenario, inbound lead, intern level project, if you will,
Absolutely.
prospect, if you will, coming
Yeah,
in, right?
absolutely.
And it shares with you a real pain point that they believe the business has and can get value out of if they can potentially solve the problem, right?
Right.
So let's hypothetically assume a scenario. I am trying to sell to Zoom, for example, right? And I get a sales employee, a SDR from Zoom to reach out to me and ask about, okay, hey, look, I want to get better intelligence on my stakeholders. How do I go about doing that, right? So
Right.
I think more than anything else, in every single sales cycle discussion, every single essentially exchange, if you will, the most important thing to validate is the pain real or not. If you can actually get tangible data point that, look, this pain sounds real to me and my gut tells me yes, this is a problem for the business worth solving, that's when you're really starting to, when you think of the de-risking aspect of your journey, right? We all know as sellers that deals get done when we have buy-in from the top, the middle, and the bottom,
Absolutely.
right? So what we're doing is, say for example, even if you start that, somebody extremely junior level coming, sharing a pain that the company has with you, I think the next step is, if you can't organically get introductions to those people, leverage your skills, man. Leverage your LinkedIn's, your emails, your connections to reach out to those people and share that, look, this is what your team is telling me. Is this a pain, a problem you care about as well? Because I'm really good at solving it.
Right. So that's even like coming from we chose this example, right? We're trying to sell a CRM into Zoom video, right?
Yeah.
So if an SDR reaches out to you, what's your next step? How do you make sure that what they're talking about is really, not just like a junior guy who doesn't really know anything talking about, and really validate that?
Yeah, I mean, think of a CRM as extremely like as mission critical of a decision for a company as they come, right? That probably one of the big reasons Salesforce is the most dominant SaaS
Totally.
company there is, right? Nobody's ripping those babies out anytime soon. So if you think about, an SDR coming up to me and he's saying, hey, the UI for Salesforce sucks, right? So you as the salesperson have to make the determination, is this pain that they bring up really tangible. Like say if somebody comes up to me and tells me, oh, last quarter my team missed 20% of their number because they weren't able to get the right data from Salesforce, or they weren't able to, basically close the contracts or some other things like that. That is an extremely tangible pain. And I know even though it's coming from the bottom, like from an SDR, even the director, the VP, and the CEO, all three layers will care about, missing out on 20% of their number. And that's a real tangible pain. If that happens, I think there's a couple of ways to go about it. One is getting the SDR to get you one layer up in the organization. There's
Okay.
always this concept of one layer up, right? You're
Yeah.
most familiar with your boss, you're most familiar with the peers group you work with, your first degree connections. So, the SDR may be getting you connected to the SDR manager. The deal's still not going to happen there. It's probably going to happen with the VP of sales, some sort of a finance buy-in and sales operations all coming in together for the decision to change the CRM,
Right.
right? So you get one level up. On the flip side, if the person is just not comfortable, then I've personally used LinkedIn and email to quite a good chunk of a pointed message delivering exactly how your CRM is better or going to be delivering more value in a differentiated manner. That goes a long way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And then, I mean, we chose this, it's a hypothetical example, but, if you were looking to displace a CRM, like, and you're inbounded by an SDR. Now, what are the other personas and types of leads in this account you actually want to get? I'm sure like operations, some other whatever directors, managers, leadership. Like who else would you be looking to get in touch with?
So sales operations will be pretty core, right? Considering
Uh-huh.
they're the ones that are handling a lot of this. They're the ones who are responsible for the pain, if you will, right? If a CRM doesn't work. So they're the ones who get blamed. IT might be very, very
Yeah,
closely involved. They're the
sure.
ones that have to manage the instance. And if it goes down, if it's not functioning right, they're usually the one where the buck stops. So, essentially understanding the owners of pain, if you will, right? And they're the ones who care about a solution for that pain as well.
Right. No, absolutely. And as you're going along, how do you qualify your actual deal and pain, to make sure that it's really strong enough, for them to, if they're changing a CRM to make that move.
Yeah, that's a great question, right? It's a great question that, look, you as a salesperson, should you be investing your time into solving this pain or not, right? And there's I see that on screen you brought up the qualification playbook by John McMahon. I think at the most tangible level, you as a salesperson at a gut level understand, look, is this pain real? Or is this pain surface level? Now, let me explain what those two means, right? Surface level pain is something that's bothering you, but you would never do anything real to fix that. And keep in mind, you might look at a demo, but you're never going to make a purchase to solve that, right? And that's not real pain. On the flip
Sure.
side, if something is costing you deals, costing you money, costing you, essentially your sensibility, that is something you will function on. So let's go back to the CRM example, trying to sell CRM into an
Right.
organization. If an SDR comes to you and tells you, hey, on the add contact page in my CRM, it starts to glitch quite a bit and I'm getting really annoyed, right? Look, that's bad for you, man, but that's not real pain. Nobody's going to change CRMs for a small tactical issue. But let me give you another example. Hey, our CRM deleted all the data that our sales reps put in for the last 3 months, and company lost 30% of their bookings in Q1 because of that. Big red flag. Even if it's coming
Yeah.
from an SDR or whatever level in the organization, the company, that's a tangible real pain that if you message the CEO about, even he'll spend 30 minutes listening to you about it.
Totally. No, totally. And are you using any like specific framework around this qualification? Like, I mean, most companies, bigger ones, are on Medic. How do you go about it?
So we use MEDPIC. We had the PIN for paper process. We
Yeah,
have used that as a
sure.
sales methodology. Of course, if you go back to the good old days, there's Spice, there's BANT, right? The very first one, budget authority. There's also the spin selling framework, if you will, right? Situation, pain, implications, and so on. So there's multiple ones. I think from just a qualification perspective, once you've been through enough cycles as a salesperson, you very much understand which pain is real pain and which pain is, going to go away in a day. So, yeah.
Totally.
I think essentially from a qualification perspective, the key thing to remember is A, how real is this pain? And B, how persistent is this pain? Like, is this something they're paying attention to today but goes away tomorrow? Or this is something, essentially like, that there's this hearing that my boss used to say back in the day, right? Are they bleeding from the neck or are they bleeding from the finger? If they're bleeding from the finger, you can sell them a band-aid. If they're bleeding from the neck, you can that's where the real deals are.
Right. No, absolutely. And I mean, if we're going back to the beginning, right, of a deal, so talking about obviously like having an inbound lead is kind of the dream scenario. It's not you kind of going out there and just starting things out. But I mean, are you thinking about specific how many leads do I have? How do I make sure that I'm actually multi-threading? So let me actually show you this little framework we spoke about. How do you approach, to make sure that numerically, like, okay, if I'm going to be working on this deal for the next 12 months, right? So kind of my foundations are there.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely, right. So if you really think about, just essentially potential roadblocks or opportunities along the deal journey, right? One of the big opportunities and the biggest risks is you essentially get just intertwined with a single champion, and you're not really interacting with anybody else in the
Yeah.
organization. That is usually when I see deals go really really wrong, like especially ones you've spent a year on. It's
Yeah.
usually those ones, right? You spent a year talking to the same person, you've become good friends, you've heard the best of things in the world, but also, this one person might leave, this one person might be moved into a different role, this one person might start caring about other things, right? So that's when deals go really wrong. On the flip side, you might not have the best of champions or the best of relationships with a key stakeholder, but if you are multi-threaded, you do understand that you understand and you validate that this pain is held by not just your core champion but 20 other core people within an organization. That is where the real that is how you get to de-risk your deal, right? Because that that essentially there's multiple people, A, who care about solving this problem, and B, who have skin in the game, right? If one person has skin in the game, it's good, still has some merit to your deal. But if 20 do, that's when you have a real deal.
Totally. And is there like specific, area within a company that is always kind of the red, the red flag? I mean, obviously it depends, if you're selling an IT solution or a sales solution or healthcare, but like, I mean, people always talk about, compliance, like everything seems rosy. Oh, and then compliance come into the picture and destroy your deal. Where would you be looking out for these early, trying to rope in these stakeholders early on?
So that's a great question. I feel it depends upon the deal cycle itself. Oftentimes in enterprise sales cycles, you'd want to start as soon as you think the deal is a little bit real and you get it comfortable with your champion, you want to start the MSA process, right? Because that's extremely time consuming, and getting legal buy-in on both sides can be, just a painful process. So you want to get that started essentially a week into your cycle, or however early as potentially possible. But see, I feel like at the end of the day, as a salesperson, you're essentially guiding your champion to solve their own pain
Totally.
by first by relying on your solution, your advice, etc. Right. So the way to make that happen is if you can, if when you have a good interaction with them, a good relationship with them, they're the ones who can essentially move the needles internally within their own organization, right? whether it's getting your MSA process started with their legal team, whether it's getting your information security review started with their infosec team, right? So it really depends, but it has to come in together because they're sitting within the organization. They understand the different stakeholders and who cares about what and what's the status quo. Well, what's the process that it runs on?
Right. So it makes a lot of sense. So you're saying with a healthy deal going, it's not like you needing to try to project out like, oh, here's where, let me try to fish around legal or IT, but like you should be guided there through your champion. Right on. So maybe, yeah, speaking of your
Both,
champ.
right? Both, I would say. Both. You
Mhm.
can also doesn't necessarily have to be your champion that guides you through everything. You being an experienced salesperson know what it takes to get a deal done and what the risks are. So you bring those up as well to your champion, right? Like, hey man, look, we get to an agreement in a month or 2 months that yes, this is the right direction. But then do you really want to waste, another 4 on top of that to get an MSA and a legal infosec process done, right? Why don't we get it started today and together?
Totally.
It
So
doesn't
so
always work out, but you can try.
yeah, yeah. So let's talk about the champion. How do you actually go ahead and develop, right, a champion? Obviously, like, I mean, you're the seller, right? You're thinking here about making a deal, getting some revenue going. But they have their own. I mean, there's their technological. There's a pain they're trying to solve. But then there's also there's politics, right? It's like are they Democrats, Republicans? How do you actually kind of see into the the whole political map of your champions organization and get help from him to navigate and that.
No, that's exactly right, right? So to your first question, how do you make somebody into a champion? And believe me, if you think of the size of SaaS deals done, this is $1 trillion question, right? I don't have the $1 trillion answer though, but what I can offer up is it begins with common ground in every single thing, right? And every single thing in life in a deal cycle, always. It's basically your champion holds a specific pain that you can solve or your peers in the industry can solve, right? And then you, as somebody who knows how to solve that pain, that is essentially the common ground between you and your champion, right? That is what you start your basis of relationship on, if you will. Once you have that in place, I feel personally that genuinely and really, I deeply, deeply, deeply believe this. If you really understand the problem inside out and can help your champion navigate not just the solution you're trying to sell, the software you're trying to sell, the services you're trying to sell, but rather understand the dynamics of the industry itself, like can be a true trusted advisor, that's the best way to do it.
Totally. So that's really great. And what about in terms of tracking the progress of your deal and the health. Do you have any signs or any like KPI to say like 2 months in, oh, this deal actually looks healthy, or one that says, oh, actually, I'm not getting enough interaction. I need to do something more. And then also, like, do you like when you pop open your own CRM, your own Salesforce, is this something visible that you can kind of tell?
It's a good question. Sorry, can you repeat that, Sean?
Yeah, sure. So I'm asking like more on seeing that a deal is going in the right direction. So are you able to track based on certain activities or uh, interaction from your your champion or the other leads that a deal is actually going well versus a deal which is more going south?
No, absolutely. There is this. I have this one measure which has never done me wrong. I don't know. I would love to hear from the folks that you share this with. But the biggest measure of a deal going in the right direction or not is the number of inbound, un essentially So number of inbound unperturbed touch points from your
Uh-huh.
customer. So what I mean by that is, prospect asking you a question about X, Y, Z, whatever it may be, but it has to come from them, and it cannot be a response to an email that you sent them, because then
Right.
you're instigating the communication, right? If you have this continual thread of inbound communication pouring in, that to me is the biggest sign that a deal is at least going in the right momentum, because there is somebody on the other side consistently thinking about the pain that you both are working together to solve, and B is consistently thinking about, okay, this is the person, this is my trusted advisor who can help me solve it.
Right.
And
Right.
then
So there's
take it a level up. If you have multiple stakeholders within an organization doing the same thing, that is an extremely green light sign to me.
right. And that's so you're saying it really has to, I mean, you kind of start this, but then it has to happen organically, kind of the pull from their side. And if it's not happening, like, okay, this deal is probably not going to happen, whatever, on this quarter or whatever timeline.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It has to be a pull. It can't always be a push. Especially in strategic deal cycles, you cannot expect to just, you be the ones who push this along. There has to be a real pull to get it done from a champion side, and potentially not just one champion, but multi-threaded champions at different levels in the organization, so they all care about it. That's when it's a real deal and it's going to happen, versus just a one-sided push.
Totally. And is there, I mean, are you able to leverage your own team or your executive team to help you kind of either move or make stronger bonds with a prospect customer you have in the pipeline?
Absolutely. I mean, all the time, right? Like this is like sales 101 right there, right? Absolutely. I mean, we're looking through not just the folks that we're connected with, but the folks we want to meet with within a stakeholder, essentially within an organization. And then once we know the core stakeholders we want to meet with, we're leveraging everybody at my company and everybody I know, right, in my prospect network, in my customer network, right?
Totally. So would you like arrange a call with your CEO, or like, oh, here's a customer in your sector, like I'd like you to meet Joe, or things like
So
that?
say for example, I'm trying to sell to, let's go back to the example of Zoom, right?
Right.
I'm trying to get to the VP of sales operations at Zoom, for
Okay.
example, right? And I remember being a CRM seller in the past that, okay, I know that the VP of, sales operations at X, Y, and Z who is connected to this guy at Zoom, right? That'll be my first person to reach out to, man. Look, I helped you solve this problem. I believe your buddy over at Zoom has the same issue. Can you make an intro? If not, I mean, if that's a great one. If you can get an introduction that way, if they know each other well. On the flip side, I mean, always that you reaching out yourself, and then potentially other folks within your organization reaching out, depending upon the level to level, right? So if you're trying to go from a CEO to CEO, maybe having your CEO email their CEO to make that interaction occur. Same with the VP of
Totally.
Sales Ops from your side, or the CIO, depending upon what kind of mapping you're thinking of.
Totally. Well, Craig, this was a phenomenal session on how to really de-risk a deal. Any final tips or thoughts? Do you use any technology or a spreadsheet or a process that helps you kind of organize this process and the way you work it?
I really like Gong. It lets, especially the new feature in Gong that lets you see, all the interactions over a specific time lapse and time period, right? All inbound, all outbound, all the folks, I think Gong is by far one of the best sales tools I know. Gong or Chorus, I feel like they're both very similar to each other. I've used both quite extensively, but either of them work pretty well. Any of the
Awesome.
conversational intelligence tools, I think I really like.
Yeah, they really show you what's going on, and understanding your conversations, and kind of surgically approaching them.
Awesome. No, thank you, Sean. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, this is phenomenal. We're going to get to work on our de-risking our deals. Thanks for your time, Craig.